Alright guys, so we have some pretty major Call of Duty 2020 news to talk about here. This type of news is something that we very rarely see when someone as credible as Jason over at Kotaku, he just left Kotaku, he's moving to Bloomberg to cover gaming news over there, but when he reveals information about Call of Duty, it's a big deal. It rarely happens. I mean, he was the one that originally told us that Call of Duty 2020 was being worked on by Treyarch. I mean, that is a huge defining leak, and he was the one that broke that news over at Kotaku over a year ago. So this is very credible, and he actually commented and gave us a bunch of information as to stuff he knows, insider information about Call of Duty 2020, the status of Call of Duty 2020, is it going to be delayed, and he either verifies or refutes a bunch of the Game Revolution's claims and the leaks from the Game Revolution talking about the Cold War, Vietnam War setting, the game actually being called Call of Duty Vietnam, and what he's been hearing from his insider sources at Activision, at Treyarch, and in these Call of Duty circles that he is talking to, and that's why he gets his information. He's very credible, and you guys know he rarely comments on anything Call of Duty, so when he's talking about Call of Duty, we have to watch and see what's going on here. So let's just get straight into the information here. He was tweeting about a bunch of different stuff. He tweeted out an article, and someone responded asking this: you mentioned the fact that Call of Duty has released annually since 2005, with Treyarch having a shortened development cycle because of the Sledgehammer Raven issues. Do you think it's possible we don't get a new release this year? This is a common question people are asking. They have less time. There's a bunch of issues behind the scene, and now we have the whole pandemic right now. We have what's going on, and there's a good chance that it does get delayed. And this is what he says: as of right now, it's still planned for fall, but nobody knows what's going to happen in the coming months. So as of now, he's confirming what the Game Revolution said a couple of days ago, saying that as of now, it's still on track for this fall. Everything is on schedule, and Call of Duty 2020, at least as of now, will not be delayed, and he's verifying that information. So that's why now I think we should be very sure that at least as of now, at least as of April 21st, 2020, this game will not be delayed. So that's very exciting to see and hear. Now, some more questions. I mean, people are asking so many questions about this game, and he is just responding to so many of them. So very cool to see. Next question here: would you happen to know any information about this year's Call of Duty title? It's leaked to be a Black Ops reboot, but I'm just curious as to what you've heard. So it's been leaked to be a Black Ops reboot from the Game Revolution's leaks. Jason leaked last year that it was going to be some sort of Vietnam War style game and that Treyarch was taking over, but Jason never leaked and never talked about a Black Ops reboot. That was from the Game Revolution, and Jason just responds, I don't think it's a reboot. So he does say, I don't think, so it seems like he's not so sure, but again, like I said, he has several credible sources within the industry, whether it's at Activision, Treyarch. He probably has sources at every development studio, and I guess from what he's been hearing, he knows the information. He hasn't heard anything about it being a reboot. Now, we got the information the other day about Call of Duty 2020 being a Vietnam War game, and it may not be a Black Ops reboot per se, but may relate to the Black Ops series. But Jason here is pretty much getting rid of that leak and the talk as to a Black Ops reboot. So at least as of now, it seems like we are just not seeing a Black Ops reboot like we saw with the Modern Warfare storyline reboot last year. Now, another question talking about Vietnam. What do you think then? Vietnam title? And he responds, yeah, Cold War, Vietnam, I believe. So he did sort of already hint at this last year, and he said, at least as of now, this is what I'm hearing, this and that, Cold War, Vietnam themed game, and we're still on that same track. I think we're all in agreement that it's going to be Cold War, Vietnam themed. It's just more about the title, the storyline, what direction they're going, how much relation does it have to Black Ops, and he also comments on this as well. So someone asked, do you think or know if it's still going to be a part of the Black Ops series then? He responds by saying, I'm not a COD person, so I don't know anything about all of the lore shenanigans or what it really means to be a Black Ops game, but one title I've heard thrown around a couple of times is just Call of Duty Vietnam. As far as I know, it's a part of the Black Ops series though, not sure. So this is very interesting as well. He's clearly heard from a bunch of his insider sources at Activision, Treyarch, Sledgehammer, Raven, etc. that COD Vietnam, Call of Duty Vietnam, is a title that has been floating around within development studios. It's also very interesting for him to say that he doesn't really know what it means for a Black Ops game to be a Black Ops game. So I feel like what he's getting at there is that he doesn't really get the storyline aspect of it. So even if it's Call of Duty Vietnam, he doesn't really know if it will still relate to the Black Ops series in some sort of way. He doesn't really know if it maybe will be a prequel to Black Ops 1, let's say, or a sequel to World at War. He doesn't really know those storyline specifics. So whether or not it's going to be Black Ops themed or any other information like that, it seems like he just doesn't know right now, or he has information, but as he says here, he doesn't really know what it means for a Black Ops game to be a Black Ops game, at least in the sense of storyline. But with the title itself, COD Vietnam is something he has heard. So just to go through the leaks right now, I want to go through some more stuff as well, but Jason, at least at Kotaku, going to Bloomberg to cover gaming news, the most credible source we could probably get to figure out what this year's Call of Duty is going to be. So the Game Revolution has gone through a bunch of different leaks. We went from Black Ops 5, we went to a Black Ops reboot, and now we're sort of shifting gears over to Call of Duty Vietnam. Now, Jason's the first one to really verify that leak. Obviously, he is saying Black Ops reboot, he has not heard. Black Ops 5, however, he didn't refute Black Ops 5. Now, although I think it's probably going to be Call of Duty Vietnam, at least at this point, all of the evidence, I mean, the most amount of evidence we have, the most amount of credibility we have here is all going towards Call of Duty Vietnam. But Black Ops 5 is still a potential. I don't think it's going to be Black Ops 5, but I think what's going on right now, if they want an easy way out, if they just want to quickly market this game and they have some struggles, Black Ops 5 is the most marketable title. As much as people really didn't like Black Ops 4 and as much as the series title is being played out, I think if they're in a crunch time and they don't have time to properly market Call of Duty Vietnam, because it is sort of a new game, so they need to do a bit more marketing to get people to understand what Call of Duty Vietnam is. But if they just release Black Ops 5, everyone knows what the Black Ops series is, so it's just easy to market Black Ops 5. So if they do run out of time, Black Ops 5 might be a possibility. He goes through some more stuff here. Someone asked another question, but aren't they supposed to start the marketing in the next month? If they announce that it's coming this fall, then probably the decision will be final. Now, his response is very obvious, and I think this brings us into a different situation this year than we've ever been in before. He says, in the midst of a pandemic, there's no such thing as a final decision on anything. So he is referring to here the release and reveal of the game. So at least as of now, from his information, this game is on track to release in October 2020 or fall 2020. It's on track to be revealed in May, like the Long Sensation and a bunch of other people said as well. But he's saying, right now, from what's going on right now, all of the issues behind the scenes, developing the game, trying to finish it, I mean, all these people are probably working from home right now. It's probably taking a toll on the development and the, just finishing up of Call of Duty 2020. Nothing is set in stone. So even when we have a leak as credible as, Jason here talking about what's going on with COD 2020, anything couldn't change. And that's why I want to bring up that Black Ops 5, although I don't think it's going to happen, I think it would be a bad move. I'm sort of done with the Black Ops series for the most part. A Black Ops reboot would have been cool, but Jason's saying that's, he hasn't heard anything about that. I think if there is just some issues behind the scene and they need to finish stuff up, Black Ops 5 isn't out of the question. I don't know. Call of Duty Vietnam, though, I like the sound of that, and overall, this is a major leak, and it's definitely very exciting to hear and see because Call of Duty Vietnam is a cool title. It's a cool setting. If they play on a bunch of the Black Ops 1 lore that they didn't go too much into, the Black Ops 1 was generally fictional. I mean, it had that sort of Cold War, Vietnam War theme. It was going on in the background, but it wasn't really about that. And the Game Revolution's leaks talked about Call of Duty 2020 and, Call of Duty Vietnam, if it's actually going to be called that. And, they talked about the game being a lot more realistic and a lot more as to what was going on in the world at that time. So really the events of the Vietnam War, I mean, the US going in, the whole battle, how crazy it was, a lot of the stuff that really happened in this world back a couple of decades ago. So it's going to be very cool to see how realistic they get and how good of a campaign they can make, especially because of the fact that they're having these issues behind the scene, the development issues, what's going on right now, so much stuff that is hindering their development cycle. But it seems like a very cool concept, and Jason is just giving us so much more evidence to fine tune as to what we're looking at for COD 2020. So definitely leave a like if you did enjoy, comment below COD 2020. If you watched the whole video, it's greatly appreciated, and let me know what you guys think about Call of Duty Vietnam. It looks like we're actually going to be seeing this game. It's going to be very cool to see, and hopefully what's going on right now doesn't hinder the game. I want it to be a good year. I want Call of Duty to succeed, obviously, and there's a bunch of different circumstances. Situation right now isn't good, but it seems like they could pull through and come out of this strong with a decent Call of Duty. So we'll have to see what happens, but as of now, some good information here to talk about, and that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys later.